start with a poem by Rumi. This we have now. A friend of mine shared this. This we have now is not imagination. This is not grief or joy, not a judging state or an elation or sadness. Those come and go. This is the presence that doesn't. So we're here to practice Rohatsu. And my old teacher, who I see here, every year when we gathered for Rohatsu, he said, well, you may have some other practice you've been doing, and that's all well and good. And if it's serving you well, go ahead. But if not, at Rohatsu, his teacher, Edo, always returned to the no koan, or I'm sure what Edo called the mu koan, what Junpo calls the no koan, and what I would call the u koan. But whatever. We read Hakuin's exhortation just a little while ago. He said, bring yourself to this present moment and practice this koan with ardor. Practice your koan with ardor. So, the traditional form of this koan is that the monk asked Jiaocho or Joshu, does even a dog have Buddha nature? And Jiaocho, that's his Chinese name, or Joshu, that's how he's called in Japan. He answered u, or in Japanese, mu, or in our language, no. He answered no. So what does this no mean? What does this no mean? And so how do we investigate this? So I'd like to start with Junpo's instruction. In our sutra book, this material is found beginning on page 22, our form instruction. Not very different than Hakuin's. So not all of us can sit in the full lotus position. I'd have to tell you that I can't, even though I've tried and hurt myself trying. It's not necessary. So we say, if on a cushion, sit with your hips elevated slightly above your knees. Weight on your sit bones, hips tilted slightly forward. Let your eyes be softly open. Drop your gaze to the floor 3 to 6 feet in front of you. Blink when necessary. If you cannot sit in comfort perfectly still for 30 minutes, it's essential that you look deeply into your psychology and conscious embodiment practice and discover why you cannot. Your psychology and body are telling you something. So, what are your psychology and body telling you? And in our instruction, we say, sit still, perfectly still. Sit still. And then if you must move, right, move mindfully. So if you have some minor irritation or itch, see what happens if you don't move. Give yourself this experience. If you have to move, do it mindfully. Right? So if you have a terrible cramp that won't go away, or a terrible pain in a knee or a hip or something like that, and you must move, then raise your hands and actually really change your form. Don't fidget. Fix the problem and then come back to stillness. And the same if you need to cough or sneeze. Most of us are in the northern hemisphere, it's winter. So we may have the cause for this. If you have to cough or sneeze, see if you can, and then come back to stillness. So what this is about in stillness is not fidgeting around. And as Engo so wonderfully said, if you start to fidget, it's never ending. It's never ending. So please don't do this. Please don't hurt yourself by starting this. So I'm skipping a paragraph. But soften and deepen your breath. Drop your chin. Have your tongue rest lightly on the upper palate just behind your teeth. Allow your attention to follow the flow of your breath perfectly. And so here we get to the meat of the matter. Now begin inside koan concentration practice with Tang Dynasty Chinese Zen master Joshu's Mu koan. Does a dog have Buddha nature? Joshu answered, "U," no in Chinese, or absence. Joshu answered, "Mu" in English, the Japanese, in English. In English, we answer no. We practice this koan using the words K-N-O-W on the in-breath and N-O on the out-breath. With your in-breath, silently recite the word K-N-O-W, no. Follow the word into the pure receptive silence within you. On the out-breath, recite no. Remember N-O. This N-O is not in opposition to anything but bringing forth and presenting the deeper silence from within. Every time your mind wanders off with distracting thoughts and feelings, gently and firmly bring it back to the sensation of breath and the awareness in which the words K-N-O-W and N-O are arising. So, for Rohatsu, consider this no practice. Consider this. So this is something traditional from Wuman, or who in Japanese is called Muman. It's about the barrier. It says, arouse a mass of doubt throughout your whole being, extending through your 360 bones and your 84,000 pores, as you come to grips with the word no. Bring it up and keep your intention on it day and night. So here in this Rohatsu practice, see if you can bring this up and keep your intention on this day and night. Don't construe no as void or nothingness, and don't understand it in terms of having or not having. It is as if you had swallowed a red-hot iron ball, but you cannot spit out, extinguishing all erroneous knowledge and experiences. In time, you will become ripe, and your practice will become pervasive and whole. Like a mute who has a dream, only you would know it for yourself. Only you would know it for yourself. Suddenly, awakening bursts forth, astonishing heaven and shaking the earth. It is like snatching the sword from an incredibly perfect, excellent swordsman, slaying both Buddhas and lineage masters as you meet them. On this shore of birth and death, you are free. You roam and play in samadhi in the midst of the six paths and the four types of birth in all existence. Still, how will you take up Jiaozhou's no? With all of your life force to bring it forth, to bring forth the word no. With all of your life force to bring forth the word no. If you can do this without interruption, then like a Dharma lamp, it takes only a single spark to suddenly light it up. So I'll come back with a little poem at our ending. But I wanted to bring up something about our Buddhist practice. It's an interesting thing, what we're doing, trying to bring this into our modern world. And how do we do this? And so one of our precepts at its foundation is to never speak ill of Dharma practice. It's interesting. When Buddhism came to China, ideas about reincarnation and all of that were not really consistent with Chinese understanding. And Zen in particular has the emphasis not to try to be waking up over lifetimes of practice, as some other Mahayana teachings suggest, but rather wake up now. And this is the spirit we're practicing with in Rohatsu. So the Buddha practiced deep asceticism and then realized that deep asceticism, or you could call self-abnegation, self-denial, was the same thing as practicing self-aggrandizement, right? Practicing privileging the self. That these are just flip sides of the same coin. And sought to find a middle way practice. And ultimately, he sat down and said, I will not move till I see the truth. And I've seen a variety of different statements about the length of time. So the common one, I guess, that we believe in is 49 days. So the Buddha sat for 49 days, but not in self-abnegation, but in serious pursuit of the truth. And then awakened, and touched the earth. Said, at this moment, I, the earth and all being, are awake. Became known as the Buddha, awakened one. Siddhartha Gautama before that. So Rohatsu is a celebration and our honoring of this tremendous achievement that blazed the way for us, and patriarchs and so on that offer us teachings along the way. And some of those teachings, they may be difficult to understand in our modern mind. But we have to remember that they come from a time which was where we didn't have the benefit of our science and technology. And people were much more concrete in their understanding. So we have to see if we can use this lens. But also, some of the practices and so on may be difficult. And so the teaching here is not to disparage these, not to get in an argument about is this Dharma teaching right or is that Dharma teaching right. In the spirit of Linji, you of course are your own teacher, but it's not necessary to argue. Not necessary. practice with full intention and ardor. But it's not necessary to argue. And so when something has been laid down before us, be gentle with this. Even if it doesn't entirely conform to your own understanding, be gentle with this. It's this gentleness, kindness, and compassion that we want to radiate throughout the world. Our practice is the marriage of wisdom and compassion. So on this understanding, just remember to be gentle. I think I've said enough, and we have about 10 minutes, and I said I have a short Chinese poem to read at the end of that. This is time for any questions or statements from anyone else, if you have some. Junpo.
All right, all right. How long is this going to take?
Just this very moment or 30 years? Takes as long as it takes. We started out with the Song of Zen, and we said, whether going or returning, we cannot be anyplace else. So it is. So if we practice with a grasping attitude, we've missed the point. It will take longer. How long is this going to take, Roshi?
It's the food.
Junpo has led the way so many times. But if anyone has anything else, either germane to what's been said or something else entirely, this is the time. Otherwise, we can get back to the Zendo.
I would like to say something.
Kiku?
Yes. So I would like to state my intention here with you all as my witness and maybe sending me a little nudge or prayer my way to stop preferring going to restaurants when I can perfectly well do my own home cooking, metaphorically speaking, with respect to Dharma and Samadhi. Does anybody understand me?
So you intend to practice mindful eating and food preparation?
No, I'm talking about working hard enough to go into the states of mind that I know I can do on my own, rather than preferring to hitch a ride with you all because it's so much easier, and relying on that instead. That's the metaphorical eating at restaurants versus home cooking.
So even eating in restaurants is just a home meal. How could it be otherwise? Pam?
Thank you. Just a question. Open-eyed meditation is new. This is new for me. I'm definitely having a harder time following my breath with it. Would you just recommend I keep going, keep trying, or should I go back to closed eyes?
So as Engo, we recommend practice with open eyes. It's not a insistence. But he pointed this out. When we close our eyes, it's easy to get lost in our internal dream states or dialogues or so on. And also, there is an energetic in closing our eyes of leaving this and going elsewhere. And we're a school of non-dual practice, practicing this as it is. So if we can learn to practice with a soft gaze, with our eyes open, present here now, it helps us to avoid the confusion that practice means going somewhere else. And besides the sort of philosophical aspect of this, consider the practical point that in our lives, right? So if we just have coffee table Zen, meditation on the cushion, and not in our lives, right, then we haven't come as far as we might. So if we mean in the Bodhisattva tradition to practice for all sentient beings, with all sentient beings in our life, then if you're like me, where you need practice the most, you have your eyes open. And so if we teach ourselves this as a beginning point, it is easier then to bring our practice into our whole life. Because where we need it, we have our eyes open, not closed. So there's no, you must practice with your eyes open. It's just that our experience tells us that as practice matures, this is a skill we want to have. So back to Jiaozhou's Wu and the koan. A dog, Buddha nature. The truth manifests in full. As soon as there is having or lacking, you will be harmed and life will be lost.